Welcome to Solution Focused Future. I'm Joe George. Special treat for you. Usually, I interview people in the solution focused world. And today I decided to go off script and interview somebody who's really influenced me in my life outside of my professional experience. And his name is Andrew Hallam. Andrew, how do you like to be introduced?
Global nomad, just a dude who maybe on his epitaph, it might say had a knack for surrounding himself with people who are smarter than he is.
Oh, you're being way too humble. Okay. Andrew is an author. I refer to him as a financial guru, but he would never call himself that. He was a teacher of finance at Singapore American School after teaching in Canada. And then he went on to write his first book, Millionaire Teacher. He's gone on to write several books since, including his newest one, Balance. And he travels the world in his free time with his lovely wife. Oh, and he's a cancer survivor. He's done a little bit of everything that everybody should aspire to in terms of having a well-rounded life. So now that I've thrown all that out, what do you want to clarify before I start asking you more questions?
Good. Yeah, I wrote the book, that book, Millionaire Teacher, while I was working at Singapore American School. I followed that up with a couple of books on investing for expats. And then I did another edition of Millionaire Teacher in 2017. And then a third edition of a book called Millionaire Expat in 2022. So that was published January 18th. And then on the same day, ironically, my book Balance was published as well. So January 18th was a weird time when two books published the same time. So obviously I had time on my hands because with COVID, we were all stuck in one location. So my nomadic lifestyle took a bit of a pivot. Everybody's lifestyle did naturally during COVID. So
with the book Balance, it's a little bit of a different animal than your previous books in terms of finding the balance in investing in life. What lessons have you learned that you're most proud of?
Well, I think with Balance, it was one of those things that it represents me more than the other books do. And so, there wasn't so much like an evolution of thought or a shift in thought. This is really more of who I am. It was time for me to actually look at money more holistically, or at least express my views, my overall views on money more holistically than I had done in the past when writing these other books, showing people how to invest money. And I think what it was, Joe, is there were people that would be asking me questions and they assumed that I liked money. They would ask me questions like, well, surely you rent out that apartment that you have in Victoria when you're away. We would just leave it vacant. And so many people who didn't know me were really confused by that. They're like, well, you could make so much more money if you rented it out. And, you draw a T-graph in terms of like, what are the benefits of renting it out? And what are the benefits of leaving it vacant? There are a whole series of things, benefits for leaving it vacant for us. Just that convenience of having it here when we wanted to come here. My family lives here. My mom and dad are here. My brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews, loads of friends. Just nice to have that place that we could just go to at any time. So long list of reasons for leaving it vacant. We could keep things here, that sort of thing. There was only one thing on the list with respect to why we would rent it, and that was money. And I think for me, money is just a tool. And it's one of those things where more money doesn't increase anyone's level of happiness or contentment, typically, unless they don't have enough to feed themselves, they don't have shelter, they don't have enough for medical, and potentially don't have enough for retirement at some stage, when they're actually going to retire, or they're not on a trajectory to retire with some kind of financial independence. So beyond that point, there's no point in extra things in life. There's no point in extra money. It doesn't improve anyone's life satisfaction, yet so many of us pursue it. And so I wanted to write Balance to express what research suggests on life satisfaction. Like when you ask someone why they want to do something, like it doesn't matter what you ask them, like anything. Like, why do you want to get this degree? Why do you want to run a marathon? Why do you want to save money? Eventually, if you just dig with why, and keep digging, eventually it will be, well, I want to feel safe, happy, secure. Okay, now let's look at what the science suggests on feeling safe, happy, secure. And it doesn't necessarily relate to just having more material things, more money. There's a balance here. And I want to talk about that with respect to behavioral science in the book.
You know, with all your skills and all your accomplishments, what are you most proud of?
I think just maybe a growing humility, recognizing what I don't know, recognizing, I mean, the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. And so I think that's probably one. And it sounds like a strange thing to actually say I feel proud of, but I think growing humility is something that that I'm happy to embrace.
With this realization and the fact that you've always just kept driving yourself to be a better runner, be a better cyclist, be a better traveler, husband, financial person, whatever. How do you do it? How do you keep going? How do you keep motivated?
It's funny. I don't know if I'm all that type A. It might sound like it, but I have a pretty relaxed perspective. I'm not overly driven as a person. So for me, the social relationships are huge. I'm really into like friendships and spending time with people. So I'm not a sort of person that works extraordinarily hard. For me, I know that life is short and I never know when my end is going to be. Time is the only non-renewable resource that I have. And so for me, I try to enjoy life to as much as I can. And there's a balance with respect to that too, because it's not just laying on the beach and always having fun and always partying and always traveling. You have to have that some sort of balance, like a sense of purpose, a reason to get up in the morning. And so it's nice to have these little projects, like to write this book, or I write a weekly column. I like to travel and give financial wellness talks. So I do these things, and it's kind of a cool niche because I'm doing what I enjoy doing, but I'm not doing too much of anything. So if somebody asks me to go to a location, for example, and give a talk, and they might offer a lot of money for that, I'm really, really happy saying no if I don't want to do it. And that happens with me. And it's just I'm just so happy that I can do that and maintain that balance instead of not feeling the need or desire to pursue more and more.
What are the 3 most important things you like to share about starting off and investing and getting that balance?
Well, one is to save money as early as you can. And you'll never be younger than you are right now. So people will look at compound interest, for example, and they'll see that how powerful it is for people who start investing early. Regardless of how old you are, like I said, the best time to start is now. Important thing. And then the understanding that you're not really deferring gratification when you're putting money away and investing and not purchasing things because of something called hedonic adaptability. So research suggests that people that buy really expensive cars, for example, don't enjoy their driving experience any more than people that drive mid-range used cars. And the reason is that, you buy that brand new BMW, buy that brand new Mercedes-Benz, and it jazzes you at first. But then it doesn't take long, literally 7 or 8 weeks before that car is just another thing that gets you from A to B. You get used to what it is you own. So the idea of deferring gratification to save money for your future is actually a myth. You're not deferring anything. And then I think the third is the realization of what's enough, and the idea that we live in a culture of consumption, and the idea of it being environmentally devastating. It's impactful. And yet so many of us just establish a benchmark based on the norm, based on what's around us. And so we spend money on things, we buy things, and we don't think we're big spenders because so many people around us are buying these things and purchasing things and replacing things and upgrading things. But everything has an environmental impact, like the mining to produce these things and the emissions that go into the atmosphere and producing and then transporting them. And then when they're, when my iPhone, where does my iPhone go when I buy a new one? Just thinking about our trash, like where did these things end up? The idea too, that if you're spending less money, you have more money to invest. You have more money for your future. You have more money to give. You have more money to use to help other people. So those I think would be three pretty big things.
You said you're not particularly motivated and hardworking, but you just finished your third book. You have a weekly article. You go around and give talks. What's your best hope moving forward? What's next?
I like to arrange things with friends. Like I'll have 2 sets of friends that will be coming to visit in France, and we're going to ride our bikes up Mont Ventoux, which is the classic climb in the Tour de France. There's 3 ascents, 3 ways you can get to the summit. So we're going to do that, and then cycle some of the smaller cols around Nice, and so down by the Mediterranean. I love to bring like people together who I've met in my travels, and so they would be people who they don't know each other, and they might have a common interest. And what I'll do is I'll invite them to a location and just listening to them at dinner time every night, and not saying much, but just watching the relationships develop. Life is really about enhancing our relationships. When you look at research on happiness, and you look at I guess Harvard's study of adult development, that 9-decade-long study, where they're looking at like what is the single greatest variable with respect to a predictor of life satisfaction, and it's relationships. So I love to find ways of like bringing people together, spending time with people, meeting new people, establishing new interesting relationships. To me, that's where it's at for me.
So it sounds like really your best hope is to create and nurture relationships and then have balance along the way.
And I guess have this really open mind where everybody I know is like or everybody I don't know is just a friend I don't know yet, or I haven't met yet. I just have this really open mind, getting out and meeting interesting people. Like I love that. Like yesterday was an amazing day for me because it was my birthday and we walked downtown. I wanted to get a thought about getting a GPS for my bike. And this might sound kind of wacky, but it tells you how fast you're going, and it tells you like how many vertical meters I've climbed in the given ride and my average speed and all that sort of thing. And I have one. It's kind of disintegrated on the side, so it's got a button on the side, like an on and off button, that's actually falling apart. So there's a piece that's actually exposed. So not to get water in it, I've got like Scotch tape that I put over it, and I need to buy I should probably at some stage buy another one. And so we were walking downtown and I thought, I should buy one of these things, buy a new one. But then, there's a couple of people that were raising money for Doctors Without Borders, and I ended up getting into a conversation with them, and we were just chatting, kind of making friends with these people, which was sort of cool. And I had no qualms about like donating money in excess of the amount that I would have been paying for the GPS for this organization. That feels so much better. And that comes down to the whole essence of balance as well. Like we're social beings. We actually get a lot out of helping each other. And when it comes down to research on life satisfaction, the research on that is solid. That GPS, purchasing that would not have augmented my day at all. It would not have enhanced my life satisfaction at all. And for someone who thinks it would, it might just really short term, like a sugar fix. But actually donating and knowing where the money is going instead of purchasing something for yourself is one, obviously so much better environmentally, but also it helps us on a cellular level. Like I walked away feeling like, feeling pretty good. And that's what it's really all about, is sharing and finding ways to help others. And it's not just money. It could be spending time helping other people. That's what really jazzes us. But we sometimes lose focus on that. And so I try not to. And I remind myself of that. And then a moment like yesterday just anecdotally brings it all together and makes it clear for me.
But if we were to look at a scale with 1 to 10, and 10's the butterflies and puppy dogs, and everything is just clicking. If you think about the stuff that you want to keep doing, your travels and your meeting people, what other things would be in there that would?
Right now, spending time with family, and there's the traveling, and there's the writing. So there's the creative outlet there. There's the work. I don't think anyone should stop working ever. And so that's something that I know my father's a bit confused by that. He asks me a lot. He's like, why do you do any work at all? Like, why just not work? And so I try to say to him, like, it gives me a sense of purpose. Like, it's actually fun, and it keeps my brain operating, and it gives me that balance. Like, what's a holiday if it's not to some extent juxtaposed with a bit of work? It doesn't feel like a holiday unless you have work to balance that out. And obviously there are things that we can't control about our genetics, but people that end up retiring earlier, and most people that retire early don't do much. Now, most people, according to the research, they'll sit around and watch TV. Maybe you play a little bit of golf. That's not everybody. There are some that will retire early and just keep really active volunteering and doing things. And I think that's amazing, but most people don't. And as a result of that, the brain is like a muscle. You either use it or you lose it. And so it's no different like a bicep. So for me, just the idea that I'll always want to keep working, and I want to suggest this to other people as well who are striving for financial independence. And I think that's a great thing to strive for. But at the same time, go easy on yourself and try to give yourself a little bit of slack, and know that, or feel that you should continue to work earning some kind of money for as long as you can. Like, it might be just part-time work. It might be just something that it turns your crank and you're really, really passionate about it. It might not be your typical full-time day job that you currently have. But these are the things that will give you a sense of purpose and an overall balance, and statistically help you to live potentially a lot longer. That's right.
So if I were to ask Pele, in 10 years, what will Andrew look like when he's at a 10? What will he be doing? What would she say?
When he's at a 10?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I think she would say the same thing she would say right now. She would say, I would be engaged in listening to people or to an individual I've never met, and asking them all kinds of questions about their lives, their stories, so that I could learn from them. So that's when I'm really in my happy place, is when I have lots of happy places, but I love asking people questions and learning about people, especially quirky people that are doing something that's really out of the box. So it could be some guy who decides he's going to ride his bicycle around the world, or a family that decides they're going to homeschool their kids and drive their RV from Argentina to Alaska. Like, just sitting around a campfire, talking to these people and asking them questions. To me, that's awesome. I love that, probably more than anything.
Now, on your scale of 1 to 10, if that's your 10, what number are you at now?
But in terms of today, how I'm feeling, I got up, I looked outside, and it was dry. So I'm in Victoria, and it's been wet. It's been raining, and I wanted to get some exercise, and I realized, wow, I could get out, and I've got this window where I could ride my bike up this hill called Mount Doug, and I could probably do 2 ascents of Mount Doug when it's dry and forecast is for rain coming up. Then I could come back and I could have this conversation with you. And I knew that I could have a quick cup of tea, get outside, do that, sit down here, have this conversation with you. And yeah, I feel really good. I feel really good about that. I mean, this afternoon, I'll sit down and I do a little bit of writing and a little bit of exercising. And I'll probably end up talking to my sister and planning a super cool trip that my wife and I are thinking of. My niece doesn't know this, but we want to bring her to France with us. So we're pretty excited about that. So where am I at? I don't know. I've got to be north of 9.
Well, that makes it really hard. So I was going to ask you questions to describe it, but you did it so well. But if you're already at a 9, like what skill would you need to consistently move to the 10?
Well, I don't think anyone can consistently move to the 10, but gratitude is huge. Like, when you'd mentioned that I had cancer and I was diagnosed with cancer, and there were often people that said to me, well, you're facing this life-threatening disease. And these were people that didn't know me very well. You're facing this life-threatening disease. You have cancer. You must really respect, or you must view life much more differently now. Take time less for granted. And that wasn't the case. I mean, I'm not that smart, Joe. Honestly, I'm not that smart, but there's one thing I know. There's one thing I know, and I've always known it. I've always known it. I'm going to die. I don't know when. And so I didn't take that for granted. And when cancer came along, it wasn't necessarily a lesson that helped me see that I was mortal. To me, that's a little crazy. Like I said, I'm not smart, but I have always recognized, at least once I got into my 20s, recognized that, man, every day is precious. We need to embrace them.
But so much easier said than done. Is there anything that helps you stay grounded?
I think my wife, I think the relationships that you have with other people, because when I'm down a little bit, she can help me bring me up and draw out like the big picture and talk about perspective, and vice versa. And I think that's what good relationships are for. And you could be single yet have a relationship like that with some friends or with some colleagues. And so surrounding yourself with people that care enough to listen to you and that care enough to bring you up when you're having a down day, and then you in turn can do the same with them. So yeah, I think that's really important.
In your writing, you mentioned your travels and you mentioned your wife fairly often and what she brings to your life. What do you bring to her life?
I think spontaneity. She will ask me about something and she'll say, she has a lot of fun. She has a lot of fun coming up with like crazy ideas of something that I should do or she would like to see done. She goes, "Hey Andrew, wouldn't it be funny if you did that or we did that?" And I'm just the spontaneous one that just ends up doing it, and she ends up laughing. Well, sometimes she'll just say these things just for pure entertainment, and say, and I'm not even going to mention what some of them are, because the listeners will see that I'm far less mature than than they might expect. And so she just encourages me to do silly things, and we just giggle together, and we have a lot of fun. But that's what I bring to her life. I bring a lot of laughs. She laughs at me and with me, but often at me.
Well, you do these kind of things all the time. And what have I missed? What would you like to add? What do you think people need to know about Andrew Hallam, or stuff that you'd like people to think about in general?
Trying to be the best person that we can be, I think, is the most important thing for all of us. And it's not always easy, but to try to give people the benefit of the doubt, and try not to judge people, because we're not born into their circumstance. We don't know what happened to them today or whether they were dropped on their heads as kids. And so these are things that I, in my life, I'm constantly trying to remind myself of. Like if I go to a gas station and the gas station attendant is a jerk, I try hard not to as I leave the gas station, say to my friend or say to my wife, oh, that guy was such a jerk. I'm making a judgment on that. Knowing that I don't know what's happened to that person today. I don't know whether their dog died today, or I don't know whether, like I said, something happened to them early on in life. And so if I can do that, hopefully other people can give me breaks if I do or say something is not fair, because life is, to be human is to make mistakes. And so I think just having overall compassion for other people and compassion for our environment, thinking about that as well as, I think these are important things perhaps we could leave with.
I really do greatly appreciate you taking an hour to spend time to chat with me. And you honestly have influenced my life more than you could ever realize. And this is the first time we've ever really talked.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you.
And thanks again for your time. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks. You too.
Thanks.
Bye-bye, Joe.
Yeah, bye-bye. If you find this interesting and haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, like, or share this site, and hit that little bell button to get notifications as well.